Continuing from last time, within this lesson we'll be looking at disjunctive propositions. Disjunctive compound propositions are formed by two propositions that are linked together by or. In variable notation, propositions of this form will appear as P or Q, with P and Q both being separate propositions. For example, let's take the proposition, frogs are amphibians and frogs are reptiles. We can form the disjunctive proposition, frogs are amphibians or frogs are reptiles. In this case, the operator's ambiguity in natural language actually causes a bit of confusion in terms of the interpretation of disjunctive propositions. As with our use of or in common speech, disjunctive propositions can be interpreted inclusively or exclusively. In its inclusive interpretation, a disjunctive proposition will be true when either subproposition is true alone, or when both subpropositions are true together. This could be formalized as P or Q, or P and Q. In its exclusive interpretation, a disjunctive proposition will only be true when either one subproposition is true or the other is true, but not when both are. Under either interpretation, the disjunction will be false when both subpropositions are false. This could be formalized as P or Q, but not P and Q. The difference between the two can be seen in the following two Venn diagrams. Within the Venn diagram on the left, it should be noticed that all three sections could be accepted as true instances of the proposition. On the right side, however, only the red and blue sections are acceptable, with the purple overlapping section of P and Q being false, according to the exclusive interpretation of disjunction. Now let's consider a disjunctive proposition. Firstly, let's look at frogs are amphibians or frogs are reptiles. This happens to be true whether we use an inclusive or an exclusive or. This is because only the first of the two subpropositions is true, and when only one of the propositions is true, both the inclusive and exclusive or statements turn out to be true. Consider alternatively the proposition, frogs are amphibians or crocodiles are reptiles. This proposition is true under the inclusive interpretation, as both of its subpropositions are true. However, under the exclusive interpretation, this proposition is false, as the exclusive disjunctive compound proposition holds that either the first or the second of its subpropositions is true, but not both. In contrast to this, the proposition frogs are reptiles or crocodiles are amphibians is false according to either account of disjunction. Within Aristotelian logic, compound propositions are incredibly useful as often as we wish to assert more than one claim in the same proposition. In this lesson, we discussed the disjunctive proposition, which claims to assert the truth of one of two propositions expressed under the exclusive interpretation, or which claims to assert the truth of at least one of two propositions under the inclusive interpretation. Remember, the inclusive interpretation is the one that's usually used in classical logic.